Stranger Things is a Netflix original series which is about a small town in Indiana which is consistently antagonized by paranormal forces. Oh yeah, and this is a no spoiler review because I know a lot of people actually really love this show and are super invested in it. The one thing I could say about this show is that the characters are splendid. Season 1 primarily focused on the sci-fi shit, and Season 2 primarily focused on also the sci-fi shit, but they expanded upon the characters. Season 3 tries to do the same thing, but it fails on one large part of that.
Love me like you do, la la, love me like you do. Read me haiku.
Okay, so the characters are great, but the plot of Season 3 revolves all around the sci-fi shit, and the sci-fi shit this time around is very weak. It's not compelling at all. It comes off as silly. Now, when I say the sci-fi wasn't really working for this season, it's not particularly the writing. It doesn't feel forced, and in fact, there's actually a lot of really good action sequences throughout this whole season. In the past 2 seasons, shit really hits the fan past the 5th episode, versus in this season, shit starts kicking off right off the bat, which you would think would make the show a little bit more entertaining because the action is just nonstop every episode. But the problem is the action lacks something very important, which are the stakes. You never really feel that the characters are in danger. Many times characters are facing dangerous situation or they're confronting an enemy. And the way things play out on the show, you think to yourself, I don't really think it would go down like that in real life. And the writing is good. It's just that at every point where something bad could happen, I feel like they hold back and they're like, no, wait, this is gonna be too scary. This is gonna scare the kids. This is gonna be too violent. It's not violent enough, which makes the show come off as silly and unimportant because the stakes aren't there. You don't care about what's gonna happen because it doesn't seem realistic. It's like, oh, you got a scratch or there's no consequences if there's no violence. And every time they cut corners like this, they coddle you. And they let you know that everything's gonna be okay. Which in turn makes the whole conflict uninteresting. If everything's gonna be okay, why should I even worry about them in the first place? Like I said, the show came out on July 4th, so I've already talked to people who have completed the show and some who've attempted to see it but couldn't actually finish it, which is myself included because I struggled to complete the season, okay? Now, like I said, the best redeeming quality about this series is its characters. They've really grown up to be very well-written characters, and you could almost do without the sci-fi shit and just have a show about their lives and them growing up, coming of age. First, I want to touch on Hopper, who is a series favorite. Hopper is the sheriff of the town. Now, in this show, Hopper is just way too silly, okay? He's a shell of his former self. He used to be so down to earth. He used to be so real with everybody. You're like, he's practical. He sees the world for what it is. And now he's a joke. They really grew his relationship with Elle, 11, in Season 2. And they continued to do so in Season 3, which are the best parts of his character. Besides that, he's just a bumbling idiot who is making himself seem silly for laughs, hanging around Joyce. We're going to talk about Joyce in a second because I have some issues with Joyce. And yes, there are scenes where the old Hopper will beat that ass and, get shit done. But for the majority of it, he's just silly. And there's even a scene where he gets too drunk and he kind of just makes a fool of himself. It's embarrassing. Another character I'd like to talk about in Season 3 is Mary Bauman. Now, he was the private investigator of Season 2. And when he first appeared in this series, I was like, why are they shoehorning this man in? But I'm surprised to tell you, he's one of the highlights of the season. First of all, the actor conveys everything about this character so flawlessly. When it comes to Murray's conflicts, he makes even the silliest paranormal shit seem like a real threat. I really fucked with him in this season, and the payoff for that character was really great. Everything he was involved in was excellent. Quickly, I'm going to touch on Lucas Sinclair's little sister, who was briefly in Season 1 and 2. She is heavily involved in the comedic side of things, and it's not just her. Without getting into spoilers, there's another character who's introduced. They play off rude comments as humor, and I'm like, why is being an asshole funny now? It's not. And if you're a child who's watching this, you're gonna think that being an asshole is funny. It's not funny. You're just being a dick. It kind of makes sense to have an annoying little sibling. But then there's another character who's a whole ass adult and he's still being rude and obnoxious and they play it off as a joke and he's just annoying. But fortunately, the character does change towards the end of the season and he becomes a little bit more likable. Joyce. Now, Joyce is Will and Jonathan Byers' mom. For some reason, they find a way to squeeze her into every major conflict so that she plays a really big part at the season finale. This season tried to do the same thing, and it's just not justified. They squeeze Will's poor mother into the most dangerous situations, and it just seems so stupid because she's with Hopper majority of the time, who is the sheriff of the town. And like I said, he's a joke in this whole season. Like, why is this mom, like, rolling around with you, doing all this detective, like, doing all this police work? What is she doing with you? You're putting her in harm's way. I really enjoyed her character in the past 2 seasons, but now she's evolving into something else. I've already spoken about it, but she lowers the stakes once again because she's having too much fun. She's making laughs, she's making jokes, and she's treating this like a summer vacation. It's like, so are you concerned about your well-being and your family, or are you just here for the laughs? Are you just having a great summer? While we're on the moms, we're gonna talk about Miss Wheeler. I'm not gonna talk about her for that long. She hoes around in the season for no reason. It's a dead end plot point, but she's really hot, so I'm not gonna complain about seeing her in a bathing suit. All right, we gotta talk about Billy. He is a crucial part of season 3. There's hints about where his character is going in season 2, and they follow through with it. This season, he's at the forefront of all this sci-fi shit. All that sci-fi shit that I said was very weak, which unfortunately his character suffers a lot from his involvement. This isn't really a spoiler because it happened so early on in the show. Billy is not himself, to say the least, in this season, which is a shame because I really enjoyed his character, which was introduced last season. You only see the real Billy through flashbacks, and what makes it worse, it's like flashbacks of his childhood. I don't think villainizing Billy was a good idea. Maybe if you wanted to do it for a couple episodes at the start, fine, that could be pretty interesting. But instead they just did it throughout the whole season. Speaking of Mrs. Wheeler, Nancy and Will's mom, being super hot, let's talk about the bodies. So Billy is supposed to be this like Zac Efron-esque heartthrob, right? And I just feel like, shouldn't this character have worked out more? Shouldn't he have packed on like a bunch of muscle all over? Because all the girls are drooling at him. Even his little sister Max says that he works out like a maniac. Y'all have seen those 80 movies. Working out was the biggest thing. Wouldn't it have been so dope if Hopper got jacked as fuck for this season? Wouldn't it have been dope if Steve still had his basketball gains? It would be especially cool for Billy, who's the main villain of this season, if he was more physically intimidating. I feel like these days everyone wants to talk about body shaming and like, don't tell her to work out, don't tell him to work. These are actors, okay? They're portraying characters. So all that being said, overall, this season really felt uneventful. It felt like you could just not even watch it. Like, my friend stopped watching it on episode 3. And nothing from the sci-fi end of things or the paranormal really was gravitating towards me. It didn't really resonate with me. All the stuff that I liked about the season was all of the down-to-earth relationships and coming-of-age stories with the kids. There was this lesbian chick that Steve was friends with who I thought she was really cool, and I thought their relationship was really great. There's this great scene where they get super high together and then they get hungover as fuck. It is really cool. You know, there's fun episodes here and there. There's a great little musical number with Dustin. And honestly, all the children do absolutely amazing. This is the best they've performed, I think, throughout this whole show. This season actually only has 8 episodes. And I was watching the finale. I didn't even realize I was watching the finale because I had stopped like halfway through the episode. It's funny because I was actually thinking to myself that after this episode, I'm going to go ahead and do my homework and, you know, do this, do that. And then I'll finish the season by the end of the night. No, like, that was it. Like, that was the season finale. If you're stopping halfway through the season finale of a TV show, then that finale is whack. Although I have those feelings about it, there is a post-credit scene. Even all of the paranormal aspects look like they're about to get way more exciting. I was super hyped. I don't think the show's running out of steam just yet, but the season was weak as hell. But judging from the end credit scenes and how the finale wrapped up, it's looking like they're gonna come back better than ever in season 4. Also, could we please get some 80s throwback songs? That's like one of the best parts about these shows. Put some Hall & Oates in that bitch or something. I'd give season 3 a 4 out of 10, because I just could barely finish watching it. But the characters are really good, and it's very well made.